Hi guys, welcome to the channel of love and the journey of ascension. We are reading Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. We are on part 2, chapter 6. You've got a problem? That's good. Let us pick up from where we left off. Another force with which every human being has to contend, and which, if not met with PMA, can cause physical, moral and mental destruction, is the power of sex. Sex presents the greatest challenge of change. Each human being has the power to choose for himself whether he will use the tremendous power of sex for good or for evil. Each human being must contend with the problems that will arise in his life because of sex. You can transmute sex into virtue or vice. One of God's greatest gifts to mankind is the power to procreate a human being. Sex is the means of procreation. It is power. Like all power, it can be used for good or for evil. Sex is a physical function of the body under the control of the subconscious and conscious mind. It is inherited. The physical sex organs, works of God, like all his creations, are good. The little difference that makes the big difference between the power of sex being a virtue or a vice is mental attitude. The inherent emotion of sex is one of the most powerful forces of the subconscious mind. The effects of its motivating power can be observed long before adolescence. This power blends with and intensifies the driving force of all other emotions. When it is in conflict with the will of the conscious mind, the power of imagination, as it affects the emotion of sex, has a tendency to win unless the conscious mind uses its power to affect, use, control, or harmonize with the powers of the subconscious. You have the power to choose. Choose wisely with PMA. Transmute sex into virtue. Thus, you will win over one of the greatest problems you will ever have to face in your personal life. And you will be physically, mentally, and morally better. And what are the 7 virtues? Virtue is moral practice or action, moral excellence, rectitude, valour, chastity. The 7 virtues are prudence, fortitude, temperance, justice, faith, hope, and charity. Number 1, prudence. The ability to govern and discipline oneself by the exercise of reason. Number 2, fortitude. Strength of mind that enables a person to encounter danger or bear pain or adversity with courage. It is the possession of the stamina essential to face that which repels or frightens one, or to put up with the hardships of a task imposed. It implies triumph. Synonyms are grit, backbone, pluck, and guts. Number 3, temperance. habitual moderation in the indulgence of the appetites and passions. Number 4, justice, the principle or ideal of just dealing or right action. Also, conformity to this principle or ideal, integrity. Number 5, faith, trusting God. Number 6, hope, the desire with expectation of obtaining what is desired or belief that it is obtainable. Number 7, charity, the act of loving all men as brothers because they are sons of God. It stresses benevolence and goodwill in giving and in the broad understanding of others with kindly tolerance. How can you transmute the power of sex into the good and the beautiful? A crystal clear answer can be found by you if you search for it as you read and study this entire book. Results will be achieved when you relate and assimilate the principles into your own life. But one must gain knowledge for himself. The following suggestions may be helpful as you search for your answer while reading. Number 1, keep your mind on the things you want and off the things you don't want. This means that you keep your mind on immediate, intermediate, and distant desirable objectives. The instinct of sex in the subconscious mind will be patient if it has hope that you will fulfill life's mission. The boy or girl who is truly in love and plans to marry will not have the sex problems he or she might otherwise have. Number 2, if there were more and often earlier marriages, there would be fewer sex problems. Life's mission to procreate is fulfilled in marriage. However, marry for love beyond the sex instinct. Number 3, lead a well-balanced, four-square life. Number 4, work long hours at a labour of love. It will keep you busy, occupy your thoughts, and use up surplus energy. Number 5, develop a magnificent obsession. Study the significance to be found in chapter 15. Number 6, relate and assimilate into your own life the concepts in chapter 2. You can change your world. And chapter 7, learn to see. Number 7, select an environment that will develop you best toward your objectives. Number 8, choose the self-motivators for self-suggestion that you believe will help you. Memorize them. Make them a part of yourself so that in times of need they will flash from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind as auto-suggestion. Not all the problems of one's personal life, however, are of so deep and penetrating a nature. Many times, all that it takes to meet an immediate problem is quick thinking, adaptability, and taking a second look at the situation which is causing the problem. It often takes only one idea, followed by action, to turn failure into success. It takes only one idea, followed by action, to succeed when others fail. In 1939, on Chicago's North Michigan Avenue, in an area now known as the Magnificent Mile, office space was going begging. Building after building had empty floors. One that was half rented was considered lucky. It was a bad year for business, and NMA hung over Chicago real estate like a cloud. You heard such comments as, "No sense in advertising, there just isn't the money around," or "What can you do? You can't fight the times." Then into this gloomy picture came a building manager with PMA. He had an idea, and he got into action. This man was hired by Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company to run a large building on North Michigan Avenue, which they had acquired in a mortgage foreclosure. When he took the job, the building was only 10% occupied. Within 1 year, it was 100% rented, with a long waiting list. What was the secret? The new manager accepted the problem of no demand for offices as a challenge rather than a misfortune. Here is what he did, as he explained in an interview. "I knew precisely what I wanted. I wanted to have the premises 100% occupied with choice, substantial tenants. I knew that under the prevailing conditions, it was likely that the offices would not be rented for possibly several years. I therefore concluded that we had everything to gain and nothing to lose by doing the following. Number 1, I would seek out desirable prospective tenants of my choice. Number 2, I would stimulate the imagination of each prospect. I would offer him the most beautiful offices in the city of Chicago. Number 3, I would offer him these superior offices at a rental no higher than the one he was now paying. Number 4, furthermore, I would assume responsibility for his present lease, provided he paid us the same monthly rental under a 1-year lease. Number 5, in addition to all this, I would offer redecoration without cost to the tenant. I would employ creative architects and interior decorators and remodel the offices of my building to suit the personal taste of each new tenant. I reasoned, number 1, if an office were not rented during the next few years, we would receive no income from that office. So we had nothing to lose by going into such arrangements as are above described. We might come out at the end of the year with no income, but we would be no worse off than we would have been if we had not acted. And we would be better off because we would have satisfied tenants who would in future years supply dependable rentals. Number 2, furthermore, it is an established custom to rent offices on a 1-year basis only. In most cases, there will be only a few months left to run on the old lease of my new tenant. Promising to assume these rentals was therefore not too great a risk. Number 3, if a tenant should vacate at the end of his year, it would be comparatively easy to re-rent in a well-filled building. The redecoration of his office would not be money lost, as it would have increased the equity value of the entire building. The result was marvellous. Each newly decorated office seemed to be more beautiful than the one that had preceded it. The tenants were so infused that many expended additional sums. In one instance, a tenant spent an additional $22,000 in remodelling. So, at the end of the year, the building, which had started off only 10% rented, was 100% rented. None of the tenants wanted to leave after his lease expired. They were happy with their new, ultra-modern offices, and we gained their permanent goodwill by not raising the rents at the expiration of their first 1 year's lease. We would like you to think back over this story. Here was a man faced with a most serious problem. He had a giant office building on his hands that had 9 empty offices in it for everyone that was occupied. And yet within a year, his building was 100% rented. Now right next door, up and down the magnificent mile, there were dozens of office buildings standing idle and practically empty. The difference, of course, was the mental attitude which each individual building manager brought to the problem. One man said, "I have a problem, that's awful." The other said, "I have a problem, that's good." A man who seizes upon his problems as opportunities in disguise and scrutinises them for the good element that is going to be there is the man who understands the very core of PMA. The man who develops an idea that can work and follows it with action will turn failure into success. Time after time, the pattern repeats itself. Problems and difficulties turn out to be the best things that could have happened to us, provided we translate them into advantages. As you recognise, the problem which the building manager faced occurred during the Depression. Things were still plenty tough in 1939 when he solved this problem, but they had been much worse. Now, the economic problems of the nation and of the world arose as the result of the Depression. Depressions are caused by cycles in the economic life of a nation or nations, but it is not necessary to sit idly by. There is no need to be beaten and tossed to and fro by the cycles of life. You can meet the problem of cycles and conquer it intelligently. In so doing, you can often acquire a fortune. Make a fortune or achieve your aims by understanding cycles and trends. Many years ago, Paul Raymond, Vice President in charge of loans for the American National Bank and Trust Company of Chicago, rendered a service to his bank's customers. He sent them Dewey and Dakin's book, Cycles. Subsequently, many of these clients made fortunes. They learned and understood the theory of business cycles and trends. Some of them will be among those who won't lose the fortunes they acquired regardless of economic trends and changes. Edward R. Dewey, who has been the director for the Foundation for the Study of Cycles for many years, points out that every living organism, be it an individual, business, or nation, grows to maturity, levels off, and dies. What is equally important, he indicates a solution whereby, regardless of the trend or cycle, you, as an individual, can do something about it. You can meet the challenge of change successfully. You can change the trend as far as you and your interests are concerned, regardless of the general trend. With new life, new blood, new ideas, new activity. He anticipated a downward cycle and prepared to go upward. Before newspapers publicised the recession that began in the latter part of 1957, one of the bank's clients got into action. His organisation went after business aggressively with a positive mental attitude. In 1958, his company developed a premium increase of over 30% compared to the previous year, which had shown a 25% increase. The entire industry, however, had a downward trend. Sometimes a cycle that presents a problem is not a cycle that affects an industry or an entire nation. It may be a cycle within an individual business only. This problem too can be anticipated and met. Witness the continual growth of many American corporations, in spite of the fact that in the normal course of events they would have grown to maturity, levelled off, and died. E.I. DuPont de Nemours & Co. Inc. is an outstanding example. They met the challenge with new life, new blood, new ideas, new activity. It is unnecessary to point out that E.I. DuPont de Nemours & Co. Inc. has continued to grow, but what is the cause of its success? Why has it not followed the natural cycle of growing to maturity, levelling off and dying? DuPont has met the challenge of change with new life, new blood, new ideas, new activity. Its executives have met this problem with PMA and the determination to overcome it. They have continued to engage in research and are constantly making new discoveries, developing new products, and perfecting their previous products. They inject new blood into their management and study and improve their sales methods. Learn from their success. The owner of a small business, or you as an individual, can study and experiment. You can relate and assimilate the principles used by such a large corporation. You too can continue to grow with booster shots of new ideas, new life, new blood, new activity. You can change a downward trend into an upward one. You can be different. When others float downstream, you can move upstream. So many of the stories you have read and will read in this book indicate that if you have a problem, that's good. It's good if you learn to see how to turn adversity into seeds of equivalent or greater benefit. You may still not see the principle, however, The next chapter, entitled Learn to See, can help you. Pilot number 6, thoughts to steer by. Number 1, so you've got a problem. That's good. Why? Because every time you meet a problem and tackle and conquer it with PMA, you become a better, bigger, and more successful person. Number 2, everyone has problems. Those with PMA turn their adversities into seeds of equivalent or greater benefits. Number 3, your success or failure in meeting the problems presented by the challenges of change will be determined by your mental attitude. Number 4, you can direct your thoughts, control your emotions, and ordain your destiny by recognizing, relating, assimilating, and applying the principles that are applicable to you, to be found in this book. Number 5, God is always a good God. Number 6, when you have a problem, A, ask for divine guidance. B, think. C, state the problem. And D, analyse it. E, adopt the PMA attitude, that's good. F, then change the adversity into seeds of greater benefit. Number 7, Charlie Ward is an outstanding example of a man who successfully met the challenges of change. Prepare to meet the challenges of change by developing PMA. Number 8, sex is the greatest challenge of change. Transmute the emotion of sex into virtue. Number 9, the 7 virtues are prudence, fortitude, temperance, justice, faith, hope, and charity. Success through a positive mental attitude indicates how you can relate and assimilate these qualities into your own life. Number 10, one good idea followed by action can change failure into success. You've got a problem? That's good, for it's the seed of greater benefits for those who have PMA. And that is the end of chapter 6. I will talk to you guys soon. Until then, take care, much love. Bye for now.